When writing programs, programmers of all skill levels run into errors, so it's important to understand the types of errors that we'll run into. Syntax errors occur when the Python interpreter doesn't understand the structure of the program and can't even run it. Syntax errors are the interpreter's way of saying, I don't understand the instructions that you gave, so I won't do anything. For example, if I write an expression 10 plus and leave out the right-hand side, then Python has no idea how to interpret it, so it doesn't try. Here's another example, and I'll put the source on the left with line numbers. And the output here is on the right. So we can see that we got a syntax error, and Python says that the problem is on line 4, but Python doesn't always get this right. In this case, the problem is actually on line 2, where I forgot to include a closing parentheses here. And note that in this example, even though line 1 is perfectly fine, Python doesn't run it because it runs into a syntax error on line 2. By contrast, runtime errors are Python saying, I understood your instructions and I tried to follow them, but something went wrong while I was running. There are many different subtypes of runtime errors, including zero division errors when Python tries to divide by 0, a name error when Python can't find a variable that we're referencing, a type error when an operation is done on an inappropriate type, like trying to add a string to an integer. And don't try to memorize all of these runtime error types. You'll be able to figure them out from the context of the error that you get. But what's important is being able to distinguish a runtime error from a syntax error. So here's an example of a runtime error. On line 4, we try to divide 4 by 0, and so we get a zero division error. But notice here how line 1 ran and printed out 0, and line 2 ran and printed out 6. This is in contrast to our syntax error example, which I'll switch back to, where Python didn't do anything from line 1 because it didn't know how to interpret line 2. So it didn't run line 1 in the syntax error example, whereas when we got a runtime error, then Python did run line 1 and it ran line 2 before running into a problem on line 4. So what this means is that the Python interpreter started following these instructions and then ran into a problem. The third type of error we'll run into is a semantic error, where Python understood and ran the instructions, but the program didn't compute what we wanted it to. So for example, if average AB is supposed to compute the average of A and B, then this expression runs fine, but it has a semantic error because the order of operations divides B by 2 before adding A, so it's not actually computing the average. So there are three primary error types: syntax errors when Python doesn't understand the source code instructions and doesn't run them at all; runtime errors when Python understood the instructions and tried to run them, but something went wrong while it was running them, and there are many different kinds of runtime errors. And then finally there are semantic errors, where the program ran, but it just wasn't what we wanted it to compute.